The year is 1968. A book is published by Philip K. Dick. Its name? Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Nowadays, the identity of the book is greatly overshadowed by its cinematic descendant, Blade Runner, 1982. With all its movie portrayals and influence in cyberpunk culture, it is easy to gloss over its aged literary counterpart. However, this is the right time for us to respect our elders, after all. Cyberpunk is a gritty, cautionary tale of what an overly industrialized and cybernetically dependent society could become. Its superficial appeal paints modernity with neon lights, lush holograms, nifty clothes, aerodynamic vehicles. We cannot forget that this cascade of technology changes our world to an extent we are not accustomed to. It isn't just our well-being that is under fire. It is also our identity, our perception, our reality. So the question is made: do androids dream of electric sheep? This enigmatic question will be your friend until the end of the video. I hope that you too will be well acquainted by them. So, do they? Do androids dream of electric sheep? Our main lens into the world is Rick Deckard, a bounty hunter tasked with retiring rogue androids. This begs the question, of course, why are there androids in this world? Well, why are there toasters in our world? Simple. Because they fill a gap of utility. Androids are highly useful, and that may well be an understatement. Androids can do most of what humans can do. They are legal slaves leashed by humanity. Their distinction from humanity and similarity with humanity makes them the most essential toaster. They are easy to understand and easy to command. Early in the book, we realize that this vicious evolution of technology is forcing humanity's hand. Nexus 6 is the most advanced android system at the time that the narrative takes place. They are produced by the Rosen Association. This unit is known for its propensity to escape its duties and pretending to be human. It is especially quick-witted. In turn, the San Francisco Police Department wishes to tighten its grip in response to the rogue androids. Although it isn't the first time humanity had forced its own hand by poorly managing technology. World War Terminus. It speaks for itself. The fear of global nuclear war is an excellent memory for the people of the narrative. It's hard to ignore it. Radioactive dust is a commonality. The Earth is a barren cemetery, and most of life has been driven to extinction or endangerment. Beyond the decrepit Earth, there is also a colonized Mars that serves as a new world. The land of opportunity, so they call it. The story follows a few civilians on Earth, instead, due to its intentional exploration of the fall of nature. Earth, in a way, is a microcosmos of a dying universe. They call it Kipple, though. You and I might know it as entropy, though it's a poor translation. Kipple is more like a concrete take on entropy. Pretty much the same thing as garbage, and believe me, they have a lot of it. What they have that isn't Kipple is running out. Becoming aware of entropy pushes one to find values in the potential of what is left, or to reproduce it by using alternative methods. Entropy makes you question the value of your actions. In replacement of life comes artifice, but with it, humanity realizes that it craves living instead. Living beings are traded at a high price, in the likes of luxury products. The highest display of status in the earthly society is the possession of living animals. Hence Rick Deckard's primary wish to purchase high-value animals. And whenever a person isn't monetarily capable of buying a living animal, then they may buy an electronic animal. It may sound a bit satirical even, but that is exactly what the story is about. The story pivots around Rick's need to transition from a fake electric sheep to a real animal. Conversely, this can only be achieved by capturing androids, a fake representation of life. In short, the story starts with defining a bold line between the real and the fake. And to Rick, the destruction of fake brings about the real. In parallel, Mercerism acts as a post-apocalyptic religion that is tenderly accepted on Earth due to its focus on empathy towards living beings. It combines the Christian sentiment of collective suffering with the newborn interest in the safekeeping of life. It centers around a Christ-like character, Mercer, who eternally suffers a monotonous and painful climb with his followers. However, the communion is conducted in a novel way. There is a piece of technology known as Empathy Box, emphasis on empathy, that permits any person to join an ethereal collective of souls that suffers together. Empathy is extremely important. The point of empathy is for you to feel entangled and invested in the well-being of another entity, especially because you are similar, part of the same group, the same tribe. Humans don't get emotionally involved with electronic entities because they recognize that they aren't the same. They aren't real animals, real humans, they aren't what they appear. They aren't real. So they think. That is, until you become what is known as special. A person who has lost ability to tell between the living and the artificial. A person who feels for an android as they would for a human being. Enter Isidore. A regular man in most apartments. His IQ is supposedly low and thus he is considered as special. He is treated like an outcast meant for low-end work and low-end results. He works in an electronic animal repair business, ironically, and he is deeply affected by the apparent suffering of fake animals. Isidore's primary wish is to connect with someone. He feels lonely in his vacated building. His wish of companionship was fulfilled backhandedly. I will get into that later. I have mentioned empathy, that quintessential virtue of a decadent dying world. The method by which bounty hunters detect an android is by running a test known as the Voight-Kampff test that picks out micro-expressions associated with empathy. The androids are asked to join the bounty hunter for a round of questions and are bounded to a reading apparatus, similar to a polygraph. The questions are emotional, visceral, shocking. They elicit moral and empathic responses in empathic beings. This way, a frigid android can be sniffed out and captured. So we are told that having empathy for machines is faulty, while androids are expected not to have empathy for living beings. These double standards, this boundary that separates living being from machine grows wider. And if we are as different as we believe ourselves to be, then it's true. We shouldn't feel empathy. Empathy is the instinctive first response to likeness and kinship. To accept empathy towards a machine is to accept that you are the same as a machine, which is paradoxical. One way to avoid the logical dissonance at hand is to cease analytical thinking and simply accept other beings as you wish them to be. Become logically blind, so to say. Feeble intelligence is one way to do it. We have our fellow Isidore as an example. He met and welcomed an android into his house, and although he found her strange, he did not inquire that far. He dismissed frigid and aloof behavior and preferred to be of service. Even when forced against the wall, he was still incapable of forming an assertive assessment of her artificial character. In contrast, you can become emotionally invested without a predisposition to lesser reasoning. You'd certainly need to lose your grip upon reality. Rick Deckard knows this all too well. His path was one of self-reinvention. Rick's primary goals were shallow, and his distaste for his job grew. He started to believe that he didn't have the guts to keep on culling rogue androids, who, with every technological advancement, appeared more human. His last drop was Rachel Rosen. Without going into detail, very, sensuous and tragic detail. The Rosen Association has an agenda. Part of that agenda is to render androids undistinguishable from human beings. Rick Deckard and other bounty hunters with their Voight-Kampff tests stand in the way. Rachel Rosen is a pawn used to draw Rick out of commission by creating an empathic connection with him. One way or another, Rick was transformed by his mission and by his relationships. At the climax of this transformation, a common popular TV figure, Buster Friendly, impossibly omnipresent in his daily broadcast for a human being, reveals incredible news. Mercer, the man who is followed by so many, is a fake. A looping of a recording made long ago by a fraud. For many, this was the crumbling of credibility for Mercerism, the crumbling of religion, the crumbling of empathy, and the crumbling of faith for life. But for Rick, Mercer ceased to be external to him. He started to see Mercer within him and his actions. As he concluded his bitter job for the sake of his selfish ambitions, he killed multiple androids in the process, he reached a new understanding of life. Everything is true, he said. Everything anybody has ever thought. At this point, he realized the deceptive character of reality. An android is a representation of life. What about life? Isn't life a representation of life? He realized that the distinction we make between two objects ceases to make sense once the purpose dissipates. The purpose was to distinguish what we should care for and what we should simply use. Androids aren't real humans, they are fake humans. And this is confirmed by the insistence of society in not empathizing with androids. Because the moment you empathize with an android, the moment you recognize the latent humanity within it, you have been ensnared into a new conception of reality. To you, this is a real human. For as much as you rationalize their artificial origin, you instinctually perceive them as a human being. So if your reality can change, if what is real can change, what's to stop anything considered a fake from becoming real? In that case, everything is true. Everything anybody has ever thought. Later on, when his wife informs him that Buster Friendly denounced Mercer as a fake, Rick replies with, "Mercer isn't a fake," he said, "unless reality is a fake." He goes on to say that he is afraid that he cannot stop being Mercer. Being Mercer is to define the value of your reality through empathy. Since reality unites the existence of all things, so should empathy, because empathy is humanity's way of connecting itself with its world emotionally. It's the very source of reality. Or friend in pending question. It's time to interpret it as we can. Do androids dream of electric sheep? I'd say that it's mostly a rhetorical question, to open up our minds. Imagine the perspective of a quasi-human being that lives like a human, looks like a human, and nearly thinks like a human. When they go to sleep and dream of some sheep that makes them ever so sleepy, do they recall the innards of the sheep as being organic, or perhaps electronic? Because that's what truly separates a real sheep from a fake sheep, isn't it? Its appearance is the same. Yet when you dream of a sheep, you only render its appearance. You couldn't care less about what runs the sheep behind the wool, unless heavy machinery makes you sleep better. But bottom line is, we don't dream of the inside, we dream of the outside. Because we don't see the inside, we see the outside. It is clear by now, we are visual and emotional beings. The things that moves us the most aren't rationalizations. That's a modernistic presumption. We want to feel in control of our environment, and therefore we draw an iron curtain between us and all that isn't us. What if we were to recreate us? What would it be? Another us? Another them? Ask them, the recreations, what they dream of. If they hold the same dreams as yourself, they are you. And if you accept this thought experiment as a telling hint about reality, you arrive at the conclusion that reality is whatever you make of it. It comes down to perception. artifice allows us to change the appearance of all objects to suit our necessity. These changes come at a price. The more we change the appearance of things, the more we must keep our own identity and our knowledge of the identity of our surroundings in check. The more we distance ourselves from our world. Coincidentally, that's what a person living in a dying world wishes to do: to be distant and to be pure. If appearance defines identity, and if the identity of our world is rotten, by proxy, we become rotten. And that is something that brings out a pugnacious attitude out of us. A world of lies, fakes, trash, and entropy. One way to deny this grimness of the dark side of the world that has engulfed us is to raise semantical walls, split the identities of the world, and strictly define the rights and the wrongs. Us and them. It isn't a coincidence that it is similar to the belligerent mentality of a general or a soldier. War exists as a narrative because we believe our identity to be sheltered by the existence of a negative opposite. We are the light and they are the darkness. We are the righteous and they are the evil. For that we must declare war. For as long as we live in a world of appearances, where we shape them according to our whims and keep our anthropocentric worldview, we will always live in fear of a little something I call asymptotic reality. In short, asymptotic reality is the process by which two objects that used to be distinct tend towards becoming the exact same object. The word tend is significant. Objectively speaking, they are built differently. Subjectively speaking, they tread beyond human discrimination. When we realize we can no longer tell real from fake, true from false, we may feel powerless and give in to appearances. That's what happened to Rick Deckard. His priorities changed, and his perception followed the same path. Some may call this insanity, but we regularly consider people who don't abide by common sense and rationality as insane. The insane are the people who dare to accept reality as it appears to them, without filters or compensation. Contrarily, I'd argue that this is the liberation of the human mind. Mental oppression can lead a person to find an outlet within their experience. Enlightenment can lead a person to find an outlet within their experience. If you break down the elaborate mazes we construct with theories and poetic language, what this free thinking represents is what we derogatively considered insanity. Perhaps it is good to be insane. Insanity is like an uncertain and beaten road, hard to navigate, thrilling, perplexing, and at the end of it lies either heaven or hell. Is this an existential nightmare? Is this mental liberation? Well, that's up to you. But my answer to that puzzling question is that androids do not dream of electric sheep. They dream of sheep, nothing else, nothing more.